Hello and welcome to the Joaquim4gov broadcast. It's still Thursday, 14th of February 2013. On this broadcast I'm going to start talking a little bit about the recent bill that was passed in Parliament to recognise the First Peoples of Australia through possibly a constitutional amendment, a referendum, and generally talking about that concept and idea and some of the reactions to that I've seen recently. To start off, if you don't know what I'm talking about, the Parliament has passed a bill with a 2-year sunset clause to basically investigate and form a commission or a group or a study or whatever of ways that we can have a constitutional amendment through referendum to formally acknowledge that, I think it's a list of 2 or 3 things. The Act again, very, very short, have a read through it yourself, but basically to recognise, I think they worded it as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders as the first inhabitants of Australia, that we respect their cultural heritage and all this kind of stuff, and to work to find some sort of amendment that would be most likely to pass with the people of Australia, the actual groups that are involved or represented, the governments of the states and territories, and that's it. That's all it does. It's just a bill to do a thing. If you have a look at that bill, the first problem you will see will be even before you get to the meat of it, which is the mention of royal assent. If you do not know what royal assent means, every bill that the government of Australia passes does not actually become valid or law until Queenie gives us permission to do so, basically. That's generally done through the Governor-General, which is appointed by the Queen. The Governor-General can give royal assent, deny royal assent, or hold in reservation for the Queen, which basically must be one of the tough ones that you have to send to old boss upstairs and give her 2 years to come back and tell you whether or not you have royal assent. So the very idea of creating an act that I guess you're going to be bringing Aboriginal peoples, the First Peoples, into the same bondage of being a subject, becoming the Queen's property that the rest of us are in. So I'm not surprised that they're not too excited about the idea. I mentioned on a previous broadcast, when I've been to the actual Aboriginal Tent Embassy in Canberra, and it's signs everywhere about sovereignty. Sovereignty was never ceded, that they want sovereignty, that it's the right of sovereignty is what they're fighting for. And that is absolutely spot on. Sovereignty is what it's all about. Right now, the sovereign is Queenie, and we are her subjects, her property. And everyone in office, House of Reps, Senate, all that, they have to give an oath of allegiance to the Queen, basically stating that they are her subjects, her property. Now, obviously that is a problem, and what I've been seeing, especially on Facebook, from the Aboriginal Tent Embassy, is that they want a treaty. Now, I think a treaty is That's one good mechanism for self-determination, I guess. I would imagine that you don't want to be brought into this whole system of being under this government and this process of laws and this Commonwealth and the Queen and all that rubbish. That's good, but I don't know if it's enough to just have a treaty to say that certain people retain their sovereignty, and where does it go from there? I saw them saying, or asking really, what is the public's opinion, the broad opinion of this act, and why don't they like it, I think was even something like that they were asking. So I'm totally with the concept of sovereignty, but what about freedom for all of us? What about sovereignty for all of us? I don't understand how you can just settle for a treaty in this modern age. I mean, there is an attention, an emphasis on the fact that Aboriginal people are kind of excluded from current system of law and government and ultimately the Constitution. And considering the Constitution is rubbish, why don't we just scrap it or heavily modify it? Not just so that Aboriginal people can have the freedom of having free use of their land and mineral and water and culture and religion and beliefs and things like that, but everyone. Why aren't we everyone's sovereign? And I don't think that's ever, I mean, even if you do want to exclude everyone but Aboriginals, I don't think that's right either, because I think everyone should be on a level playing field, especially from a freedom perspective. If you want to be recognized and be brought above from, I guess, second-class citizen or, people that have been invaded upon, I guess you could say, that's one thing. But it doesn't seem right to then be above the rest of the country in the ability to exercise your freedom. I think it's good that the idea of sovereignty is going to be brought, I assume it will be, brought into emphasis with the general population, and everyone can have a think about that. But yeah, a treaty would have been good originally, and the examples that are used with, like, I think New Zealand is always the example. That was done a while ago, and it would have been a good idea for us to have done something like that. But today, I don't see how that's going to be the best way. I mean, it's obviously better than an empty bill to do a thing and then a constitutional amendment to bring them into our terrible subject format, which obviously I don't like. But I think that there are better ways to do it, and like I say, I think that becoming a republic is the only way that we can get properly acknowledged. There you go, watching those. There you go. So, yeah, I don't think that you can ever really acknowledge the sovereignty of a group of people while the Queen still owns their land and their minerals and their government and everything that controls their daily life. I think that what needs to be done is that we need to have a referendum for retaining our sovereignty. The sovereignty should be with the individual, and we collectively authorize representatives of the people to exercise that sovereignty in the government of the people. Oaths or affirmations should not be to allegiance to the Queen and the kingdom and all that rubbish. It should be to the people that you're representing. We should not have a government general. There should be none of that rubbish. And I think that's what groups like the Aboriginal Tendency should be going for, is go all the way. Freedom for everyone. If you want to exist outside of everyone else in Australia, that's your business really, but everyone, the same mechanism should exist for everyone to make that choice. Things with, what's a good example? Principality and tribal lands, I guess. If you have Aboriginal tribal lands that you want to use or claim or own or whatever, fine, have at it. At the same time, though, we should be able, any individual should be able to, which we already have that now, but it should be formally recognised that the people are in charge, basically, and that we determine our own form of government, and it's how can I put it? We determine our own form of government, I think is the best way to put it. And there's, whatever happens, there's an opportunity to go after everything. Like I said, there's, individual people or just a Republican debate or something like that. That's a different story. That doesn't get as much traction. But the fact that the representatives of certain Aboriginal people, I guess, are pushing for sovereignty is something that really needs to be hammered. But sovereignty for everyone is what needs to be hammered. And frame it so that whatever rights, freedoms, options, whatever Aboriginal people are seeking to have the ability to do, it should be framed in such a sense that everybody has the ability to do that. If you don't disagree, then the only other option to do that is that Aboriginal people will have sovereignty above everyone else, and who knows what will happen after that. I look forward to serving my malevolent Aboriginal overlords. I don't know. I think that's what should be pushed. Freedom and sovereignty for everyone. And it's another good opportunity to also make sure, there's a lot of dodgy mythology when you look into this sort of area of the history of our Constitution and what we are and what our rights are and sovereignty and freedom and all that. How Australia's a corporation and all our IDs are all in caps and we're all corporations and we opt into contracts and all that kind of rubbish. And whether or not that has legal validity, the fact is that we have a system now that it has been in power and in place for a while, and one individual trying to opt out of that system of control, no matter how valid, legal, apt your argument is, it's not just going to relinquish its power. So it's if you're that way inclined, it's another good opportunity to make sure that every single thing is covered as far as sovereignty and freedom is concerned, and who you're actually making a deal with. Are you making a deal with, well, ultimately you're making a deal with the people of Australia who are all the sovereign. Otherwise you're making a deal with the government of Australia, which is the property of the Queen. So you're making a deal with the Queen. The Queen needs to be thrown out of the whole equation completely. And or another thing that might happen is that they can just remove Section 25 of the Constitution, where they talk about what was it? Particular laws where certain races aren't included in a population, then they're not counted for distribution of Senate or something like that. Which, that's completely token and pointless and achieves nothing. They might go down that way, I don't know. But as long as our current system of government is in place and we're all subjects and property of the Queen, then I don't think groups like the Aboriginal Tent Embassy will be happy. But having said that, what would work? And I'm curious to know how you could word something where everyone's freedoms are protected without changing our system of government. Even if you have a treaty, but you still have our constitution and leave it all alone. And the Queen's the ultimate boss still, so you really haven't changed anything. Anyway, that's just a starter of some ideas, and I'm going to put this as a reply to that particular question. See what I get back. And I might go into this again, but yeah, that's my answer to that question. We need to become a republic of independent individual sovereigns that collectively are represented by our system of government. And we the people are in charge. And we the people is all inclusive. And all those things like property rights, mineral rights, culture, religion, that should be part of that for everyone. Anyway, it's starting to get a bit dark, so okay, that's the start of that. I'm sure it's going to not be the end of that. So that's just another update for Thursday again, and keep spreading the word, give me your comments. It's probably going to be a good one, this one, so okay, bye.